As a parent or mentor, you have the awesome opportunity to help a young person build a future. So if the future they want is in the military, take the time to learn more at todaysmilitary.com, because their success tomorrow begins with your support today.
Welcome to the Southern U Podcast, brought to you by Darden Archery on the OKest Podcast Network, with your co-host, Matt Brock, Jeremy Ferguson, and Taylor McMurtry. If you're looking for all things land-related in the Southeast, you came to the right place. Whether it's real estate, habitat, wildlife, or just being outdoors, this is the place for you. Welcome to the Southern U. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Southern U Podcast, where we seek to provide resources and education on all things land-related in the Southeast. I am joined by the full crew today. It's been a while since we all kind of were able to get together because y'all been doing all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. We have Matt Brock of Habitat First Properties.
What's up? Oh, is this shout out time?
No. I just said it. I left out.
Oh, you didn't.
I didn't give you your intro like normal.
Thank you very much. I'm sick of it.
The legend.
Freaking idiot. No,
Matt Brock. Yes, Mr. Matt Brock. Yes. And Mr. Jeremy Ferguson of Land Wildlife Consulting Services. And
whoa, stop. Wait, what's his name?
What do y'all call
alias?
Him? Yeah, well, y'all call him what, Harold?
Harold, Gerald.
I answer to pretty much anything.
Fathead.
I don't have a fat head, though. That's the problem. It's just bald, average. It's bald. No, it's shiny. I wish I could get it buffed. And I think I could do some damage with that thing with the right lighting.
Yeah, we can arrange that.
Or I can just do damage to it like I did messing with a cow and just whack it on everything.
Yeah, well, that's why you don't have cattle.
Yep. Yours is thinning, so
mine is thinning. I'm losing hair.
You're going to figure it out. I don't know if you ever will.
Oh, mine's gone.
Oh, is it?
It's going, yeah.
Okay. When it's gone, you will absolutely just despise the fact that you ever had to cut hair, because getting your hair cut sucks.
Oh, it does.
But the one great thing about having hair is it's cushion when you hit your head.
Oh, yeah. It makes a difference.
It makes a humongous
Hard
difference.
Impacts.
Yeah. Yes. And when you cut anything on your head, it's like a murder scene.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's true. Oh, and backed by popular demand, Bray Swagger.
Yes.
What's up?
Yep.
So this is going to be part 2 in the Ask a Biologist series, and you guys seem to have had a good response for the first episode. And look, we apologize. Don't know what's going on with Spotify. Normally, we're able to upload video and audio there, and that way you can pick your poison, whichever one you want to listen to or watch. But for whatever reason, we went through 2 weeks of support with Spotify, and it just couldn't get it resolved. They couldn't tell us why the video wouldn't upload. Everything plays, on our end. And so anyways, all that to say, sorry about that. But you can find the video on YouTube if you want to watch it instead. But it's just kind of frustrating because I think that was probably one of our better episodes.
Yeah,
that we had in a while. Oh,
y'all just wait.
Oh, I was going to tell you, Matt, my dad said that he was going to attend the Turkeys for Tomorrow banquet.
Oh, great.
If he could win, the free consult. But he wanted to know if you could sub out the consultant, to somebody else. And if I win, can I get Bray to do my consult instead?
That's not how it works.
That's funny.
That offer wasn't made for her.
No,
to her.
That's funny. Anyways. But we're going to go through a few more of these questions that were sent in primarily from Instagram, a few from other places, but we really appreciate the response because you guys have asked some really good questions.
Yeah.
And
we don't know, didn't you at least have a little precursor to the questions last episode?
A little. Well, when I say precursor, it was like 5 minutes before we turned the cameras on.
And what we did is we went through them, or I did, and it was like, Okay, these are better suited for some later guests that are biologists with different specialties.
Right.
And I didn't want me and Bray answering things that were much better suited for some of the other guests later on.
Yep, that's right. So, but before we jump into that, want to give out some random shout outs for, I think it's something we want to do for the kind of moving forward here. We got just, some listeners that contact us and share their successes and just any kind of random shout outs you want to give. And is there, I don't know, any of y'all want to tee it off or y'all want me to? Or?
I'll tee it off.
All right, let's guess.
I guarantee you Jalen Hurts does not listen to our podcast or watch our podcast, but I think he had a pretty good performance last night.
Shout out Jalen Hurts, man, for preventing the three-peat.
That's right.
For the Chiefs. Yeah, absolutely.
So whatever y'all are talking about, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched a Super Bowl in 21 years.
Wow.
Until last night.
So why did you watch that one?
Because our church just decided to get together and have a Super Bowl party. So I was like,
okay, I was legitimately curious.
We got together and we ate and had a good time, and kids got to play.
As some of my buddies say, you got together and smoke, drink, and rejoice.
Eat, drink, and be merry.
I didn't see any cigarettes or cigars.
Well,
gotcha. Jeremy, you got one?
I do. I'm actually going to give a little different shout out. I want to do a couple businesses, but first, I'm going to give a shout out to Gunnar Lindsay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Birthday buck.
Yeah,
awesome.
Old birthday buck. Absolutely toad. If y'all hadn't seen that little post, jump out there on Southern U on Facebook and check out the buck he took on his birthday.
Fine deer.
Yeah.
Fine deer.
With his dad's a great friend and a past colleague of ours at DCNR. But yeah, absolutely.
That was awesome.
And y'all watch out for him turkey season. I promise you, he's going to lay waste to some turkeys too.
Oh yeah, give turkeys a headache.
Yeah, that young man is going to be an absolute killer.
Does he eat up with it?
Oh, he's eat up with it.
Awesome. Bray, you got one to know off camera. She's like, I don't really like anybody. I don't want to give a shout out to anybody.
I was going to shout out the Eagles for finally knocking the Chiefs off, but Brock kind of took that from me.
I'm sorry, Bray.
Whatever. I will shout out my mom for sending a bag of Christmas tree cakes for all of us today.
Mom for the win. Awesome.
Yes.
So,
Mom for the let's kill Bray's friends and keep Daddy.
yeah. She was like, get these out of my house. Y'all have them.
Nice.
So.
Well, that's awesome. And I guess this kind of is a shout out. It's really more of just like a call to reflection, maybe, in memory of. I found out that Roy D. Mercer has passed away yesterday. It's February the 10th when we're filming this, and we found out yesterday that Mr. Mercer indeed passed away, but provided lots of laughs and lots of memories for a lot of people.
Yep.
That's right, man. How big a boy are you?
Just a lot smaller than I used to be.
Yeah. So, anyways, with that being said, we're going to jump out here and throw the first question that we got, and let's see what the biologist in the room had to say about it. Y'all ready?
And then we'll see what Tay-Tay's got to say.
Yeah, well, nobody really cares.
Stop calling him Tay-Tay.
Why? So
because
we can
then
stop calling
he gets to call him the legend.
That's the deal.
No, I have stopped calling him Tay-Tay. I guess you can call him whatever you want, but is that fair enough?
That's fair enough, yeah.
Okay.
So are you going to stop since he stopped?
Yeah.
Yes, he didn't call me.
That's a ceasefire. It's a truce.
Right.
Yeah.
Are we held to the same standard?
No.
Okay.
And they're just being sissies.
I'm just like, if I'm going to be Tay-Tay, then he's going to be the legend and vice versa. But,
PP on both of you.
Look, we're just giving the people what the people want.
They don't want it.
They do.
I don't want
They
to
want
have
a
it.
T-shirt that says it.
I don't give
which
a
we can
flip.
make happen.
No, that ain't happening. I'll put my foot down on that.
T-shirt's coming.
I was about to say,
Oh boy, y'all don't know what you're doing.
Hey, we get
Forgive them,
we
Lord.
get an
They know not what
influx.
they do.
What's a crazy goal? Hey, we shoot up to 10,000 followers on Instagram. We
I'll
make
tell you
legend
what.
T-shirts.
If we get to 10,000, we'll make a legend T-shirt. It'll be mine, not everybody
there
else's.
we go.
Will you wear it on camera?
Yeah,
All right. Hey, y'all heard it.
Just once.
Y'all heard it here first.
Let's do it.
just once. I don't like this.
Hey, look. When that happens,
It's not going to happen.
when that happens, it may take a moment, but when that happens, I'll quit.
Right.
Deal.
Boy, that's a good deal.
Look at that face.
That's a good deal all the way around.
Okay, if we get to 10,000 followers, I will stop.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I want to interrupt because I did ask a fella. I wanted to do another shout out. A really good client of mine here close to home, Mr. J. Durham's son, killed an absolute hammer as well a couple of days ago. We'll make a post about it. Yeah. But shout out to Mr. White Durham for a hammer that he took here about a week ago. That's awesome. As well. Good. That one's close to me. I sold on the property, and we spent the last 3 years developing that property. And that's really the first buck that they've harvested off of it. They've kind of wanted to take things slow, let things progress, and killed a nice mature buck.
It's awesome. That is cool, and hopefully we get more and more of stories like that along the way. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, let's jump right into our very first question here. Resident biologists, what is the most ideal trees and food plots to plant on a property to help bring deer onto a smaller property? I realize that's really specific.
Yeah.
And I know how it will start, so y'all just go ahead and say it.
It depends.
There you go. All right. Assuming that it depends, then what?
Okay, so on small properties, the first thing I do is look at what's actually around it. And whatever is lacking around it is what I focus on that small property. So the species of tree that I would plant there would depend on what is around or what is not around.
So if you got pine plantation all around you,
you better throw in those oaks.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, look, you've got oaks, you've got soft mass producers, persimmon, crabapple, plum, all types of things.
Many different pears and apples.
So many different options there.
And now there's a lot that actually they've bred through the years to drop at specific times.
That's right.
Later in the season.
That actually, drop during hunting season.
Ideally, I would get varieties of things that start dropping in late August, early September, and just stagger them going so that you've got something falling all the way through winter.
Yep.
Gotcha.
I would love to have a tree that's like our other persimmons at home. We've got one that just quit dropping persimmons. They've just been hanging. Of course, they're a little dry, but they've just been hanging there for the longest.
Did they ask about food plots too?
Well, they said, basically just what food options.
Options.
Yeah.
I would throw perennial clovers in there.
100%. It's just so easy, especially on small property.
Yep. If you've got,
I'm same boat. I mean, we learned that in the last episode.
Yep.
Look at what's around you and then kind of make up the difference. I like the soft mass producing trees if you can make sure that they can reach maturity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Protect them.
Protect them. Yep.
Okay. Let's go. I mean, maybe that's something that you could expand on there. Is that just to cage them or to?
Yeah. Yep. And prune them properly.
Yes.
Yeah.
The thing about caging them, if you've got deer, that you're obviously trying to bring in with soft mass trees, they're very aromatic when you break the bark, and deer love rubbing on them, and they will absolutely destroy them.
Gotcha. Okay.
They'll rub them all to pieces.
That's interesting. I don't know if I ever really thought about that. Like what would make a deer want to rub a specific tree. But.
And this would actually be great for us. Matt and I are taking a trip tomorrow to see Mossy Oaks Nursery. But there is a specific way you need to prune fruit trees. You really need airflow through those things. When they get moist, it causes when they hold moisture within the canopy, it causes all kinds of problems. So you want to prune those things in a proper way, or you'll have trouble down the road.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, anything to add? Move on to the next.
Yeah, man, I think it's just a fairly straightforward topic. Unfortunately,
it is.
It's hard to expand too much on because the biggest thing is look at what's around you, like Matt said.
And it's going to be site specific, depending, the soil quality or type, pH. Some fruit trees do better.
Yeah, well, I think too. It's like you guys probably get tired of hearing the whole "it depends" thing, but like from what I'm hearing from everybody in the room is It does though, and to give some kind of blanket advice on some of this stuff would be inaccurate.
It would.
Yep.
And that's what we're trying to stay away from.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like what I was talking about in the group message yesterday on how, we've been to sites that were just a couple minutes down the road from each other that needed entirely different recommendations.
Absolutely.
So when we say it depends, it truly depends on what you're working with.
Gotcha.
And to almost expand a little bit more on that, if you have a consultant that's giving you blanket recommendations based off of a map, fire them immediately.
Yep.
It's going to cost you more money, but somebody needs to step foot on that property.
Yep. You need somebody there.
Yeah. I mean, we've
And you need somebody there that knows what they're looking at.
Because I have looked at aerial photography before, and what I saw when I put my boots on the ground was vastly different than what I had envisioned.
well, I mean,
Absolutely.
To equate that back to like maybe more everyday life for a lot of guys that hunt. I mean, how many times have you gotten your favorite, whatever hunt stand or on X or Spartan Forge, whatever your app is, and e-scout the crap out of a property that you're going to hunt and think I know where I'm going to hunt. I know where I'm going, and then you get there and you're like, I can't even hunt this. Like, you know what I mean? This is a lot thicker than I thought, or the terrain is much steeper than I thought it was, or whatever. It's just like you can't do that. You may have an idea, but once you get there,
And I am here to tell you that a photo, especially a topo, will lie to you in a minute. We, from the real estate side of things, we'll do a lot of evaluations from aerials and maps and all that, and get out there and start riding property and like, whoa, this does not match what we saw on the maps.
Yeah, I mean, I know like just the SOA stuff that we've done where you're going to a place that you've never been before. So you really, really try to get an idea of what you're going to do when you get there with limited time. And apart from it being a food plot, you're like, okay, well, I know I can hunt that. But then you get there and it's like, oh, well, they didn't plant them. So, well, you know what I mean? Oh, crap. So there's just no guarantees without being there. So,
and there's a lot of these guys they're specifically in hunting type podcasts and videos and whatnot that expand on that more. But all that is for is just to give you a starting point.
That's right.
Then you got to put your feet on the ground.
Right. Good stuff. You guys will like this one because I think you guys have had some experience recently with this one.
Oh, no.
I don't know what to think about this quite yet.
I'm not sure either.
Tips on poacher proofing / reducing access to your property for unwanted people.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I want to say this before we get into that. Be very careful. Do not do stupid stuff and booby trap and try to do things. Don't try to flatten tires and things like that. If you get somebody hurt, you're going to be held liable.
If you damage their property, even though they're on yours, you're still going to be held liable.
Yeah. Yep. I had a guy that I knew that put up barbed wire years ago, and he was trying to put it up high enough to keep people from just driving over top of it with like four-wheelers, and a kid run through it and got really hurt on a small four-wheeler, and it hit him across the chest, and it was not good. It's not worth that.
No, it's not.
It's not worth somebody's life.
Nope.
That's bad news.
With that said,
Yes, about to say.
As far as poachers go, surveillance, there is so much camera technology out there today.
Cell cameras are huge help.
Make sure you post your land.
Yes,
purple paint.
In Alabama, purple paint.
Yep. And I mean, look, there's a lot of people that just absolutely despise game wardens. I mean, we've all lived it.
But get to know them.
Get to know them. Be friendly.
Yep.
And give them access. If you're playing by the rules, this shouldn't matter. They are your best friend when it comes to helping with that.
Absolutely.
If a poacher knows that a game warden or even sheriff's department, somebody like that is there or has access to it, they're going to be a lot less likely to be out there playing around.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on the cell camera thing, a lot of it, is patterning out this person's behavior.
Yep.
And then you can provide that to your game warden. If they're not hunting, it's a sheriff's department issue.
That's right.
If it's just
That's right.
trespassing, that is your sheriff's department. A lot of people think you have to call a game warden if you have hunting property and somebody's out there. That is for hunting without permission.
That's right.
Not
Correct.
hunting, poaching, all of that stuff. I'm a huge advocate for cell cameras at your entry points. And then and especially like Jeremy was saying, if you're good with your local game warden, you can call and say, hey, they just went in. And then that way you're not confronting that person.
That's right. It's not a good idea to confront people. I mean, I dealt with this yesterday. My wife and I were building a new fence across the back of our place, and women have this innate ability to know something's wrong before it's going on. I don't know what it is about their intuition. And she walked off around the corner and was just standing there just looking. I was like, what in the world are you doing? We got stuff to do. And she's like, there's somebody over there. And I was like, no, I don't see anybody. She's like, there's somebody over there. And here in just a minute, I could finally see him. And he walked all the way through. He's a homeless guy that's living on the other side, but he's just walking right through our property.
A homeless guy living on the other side.
Yep, he lives
You're going to have to
in
explain
the
that.
woods.
Okay.
I mean,
gotcha.
there's no home.
Gotcha.
We have on the back of our place and all around the rim of the bluff there's old Indian shelters.
Yep.
And we've had to run folks out of them time and time again, get in there and just live. Our area, y'all don't have this problem over there where you're at. We have a tremendous homeless population that stays pretty well out of the spotlight. And they're scattered all around over here, unfortunately. These little encampments in the woods that you'll come across. And you don't need to, you come across that, you don't need to go up in there either. It's generally not a good sight.
No.
Let the sheriff's department handle it.
Yep.
With that also, if you've got, if you're out of state and you've got property for any of our out of state landowners here, either make sure that you have access to those cell cameras or designate somebody that you trust local to keep an eye on it. Because I've seen several times where some of these properties that aren't checked on regularly, they'll be turned into a whole hunting camp before you know it.
Absolutely. I've told people in the past that we've worked with, if nothing else, the out of state is what I'm referring to here. If nothing else, put somebody on payroll just to go by and check it and be seen on the property every so often.
Yep.
You can, even like Matt, you may not want Matt to do any consulting work, but, he's local over there. Huh?
I said, who would?
But, somebody just needs to be seen on these properties.
Right.
That's other than the financial gain, that's a big part of why a lot of timber companies lease land. They want somebody there.
Yeah.
Well, that
makes sense.
That's why I've gotten some of the turkey properties that I do. They
just want somebody there.
They don't live there. They don't care about killing turkeys. They're there to deer hunt. Hey, Matt, if you'll just keep trespassers run off during the spring and summer, I don't want people out there riding four-wheelers or camping or doing whatever. Turkey hunt it, take care of it, and, as long as you'll do that for me, you can kill all the turkeys you want.
Yeah, and that's another topic. You mentioned the four-wheelers. Even if trespassers just get hurt, you can still be held liable, which is insane.
It is
insane.
Wild. But, somebody riding a four-wheeler out there got no business being there. You don't want them there. They get hurt. A lot of people will come after you, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now, as far as screening, I'm a fan of screening if you've got neighbors that like to shoot across the line. And when we do habitat work, I typically try to leave a buffer or barrier along the perimeter of the property if I know that's a problem. I don't present the best habitat along the perimeter.
That's right.
Because sometimes you don't want your neighbors to know what you've got in there.
Yeah, sure.
If you're doing all this intensive habitat management and the neighbors see it, they're like, golly, I'm going to hunt right on the line.
Yep.
And
Yeah, it was a good rule at a club I was in several years ago, and it had a pretty I'm gonna say a relatively wide creek. It's probably 30 yards wide, and
My bad.
we'll hear Matt do it in a minute.
Yeah.
But anyways, technically speaking, our club owned property on the other side of that creek, you know, or leased property on the other side. But they just kind of went to the other club and just said, hey, look, we could hunt over there if we wanted to, but how about this? We just kind of have an unspoken rule where we don't go across that creek to hunt over there, and y'all don't come over across that creek to come over here. Let's just leave it at that. And that was like, you know, easy for everybody to know. Hey, don't cross the creek, you know. And but as far as
I'm sorry.
Look, it's this simple.
Matt is in the mood today.
Yeah, he is.
In the mood.
Huh?
Do that again?
No.
He even got half of Jeremy's gravy biscuit this morning. He's still in a mood.
Oh,
I'm not in a mood.
Yeah, you are, but I know
today.
why.
I'm happy today.
Oh, man. Bray, that screen over there, that camera facing you is red, right? It's got a red ring around it, I hope, maybe.
No.
Really?
Don't lie to him.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Around the whole perimeter.
It's
Okay.
very,
Just want to make sure
Oh,
it's
on the
covered.
screen.
Yes.
I was looking at the lens.
No, sorry.
Oh my
the screen.
gosh.
Sorry.
Bray,
I'm sorry.
stop
Okay.
doing that.
Good
I'm
Lord.
done. I'm done.
We're derailing.
Sorry.
All right.
So loud.
Actually, this is kind of along the same lines. I think this is a good question too.
Well, hold on. Sir, I'm not done.
Oh, my bad. Jeremy's ready.
Yes. Access around gates is one of the biggest problems. So you got fences and tank traps. If you don't know what a tank trap is, if you're dealing with ATVs, tank traps work great. You can do them two ways. If you want to make sure people don't get hurt, you put the dirt on the backside. But we had a tremendous problem with trespassers when I was with Timber Company. And so you just take an excavator or, whatever tool you've got. You can't do it with just a tractor. But dig a hole that's, 4 foot deep and that wide and put your dirt on the backside just to make a berm. And there is no way for a vehicle or a four-wheeler to get across that.
Yeah.
They're going to wreck it. But we always put the dirt on the backside so that people could see the hole. If you go up across the berm and down into a hole, I can attest it's a heck of a wreck. we had to get a couple four-wheelers out.
So you were not the trespasser?
No. We just gained some four-wheelers and stuff when that were left.
Yeah. So it is. We'll just cut our losses and leave those here.
I mean, sidetrack story. Soterra owned a tract in St. Clair County called, when it had a tunnel through it called Hardwick Tunnel. It was owned, if I remember correctly, it was either on the cover or had a big spread in, I think it was like 4-Wheel Drive magazine.
Oh, nice.
It was a huge Jeep club, had trespassed and went down in there and shot all this stuff and sent all this stuff in and didn't even have access to the property.
No way. God.
It was a pretty big stink. And look, don't quote me on that magazine, but it was a 4-Wheel Drive magazine of some sort.
Wow.
That it made it into.
That's funny.
That is wild. Okay. Well, along the same lines here, this would be the question number 3, I think. Best tactic / conversation to get your neighbors on board with letting young deer walk. No, you guys
buy it or shoot them. That's the two options you've got.
The deer or shoot the neighbor?
The neighbor.
Oh, okay.
We do not condone
It's a joke.
violence.
That's a joke. Yeah, please, people,
obviously
please.
kidding.
Yes, that's a joke.
But no, really, just shoot the deer. Just be done with it.
Yeah, I'm a very big proponent of cooperatives and working together and keeping good neighbors at whatever cost it takes. It can be challenging because people have different objectives. That's why cooperatives typically just work when people have similar objectives. You can generally find some common ground on people that are wanting to grow 4-year-old deer, and this neighbor wants to grow 5-year-old deer. You can usually try to work through that. But when you've got somebody that wants to shoot every 2-year-old 8 points they see, It can be it's a challenge. It is a challenge.
That's why there's fences going everywhere.
I was going to say honestly, you know, we can laugh about his response, but you've got two options in some cases: shoot the deer or put up a fence, and that's really all you can do, because some people, and it's all personality driven. Some people are going to shoot deer just because they know it bothers you, and if you let them know, especially like if you blow your top and get angry and show your butt in front of your neighbors, that immediately puts them on the defensive, and they're like, well, by gosh, I'll kill every deer I've got on the place. Every one of them. I'll get me and my kids and my nephews and everybody out here, and he'll never kill another deer.
That's what I was about to say, was it's all in how you speak to them and approach it, because if you come in and you're like, hey, I don't want a neighbor that's shooting every spike out here. I'm one of those people that if you tell me not to do something, I'm going to want to do it, even if I didn't want to in the first place.
Right?
I don't know what to tell you, but that's how a lot of people are going to react. And if you kind of come at it like, hey, here's what we're trying to do over here. We love it if y'all participated. Also, here's kind of why we're doing this. We're not, trying to bash what you're doing. I think I go about it a little bit nicer than. Well,
and look, y'all probably all heard you can attract more flies with honey than vinegar. A lot of times, all it takes is just you taking that initial step and sharing some pictures or sharing some deer that you killed with your neighbors and say, look, what?
I'm sorry.
What? Say it.
Huh?
Say it.
More flies with honey than vinegar?
Yeah.
Well, what about a big pile of shit? There's a lot of flies on that.
All right, my point being, and I see this all the time. You talk to one landowner, like, Taylor's got his 150 acres, and you get to talking to him on a consulting job. You're like, oh, do you talk to your neighbors? No, man, I don't tell my neighbors anything. I don't want them to know what's over here. I'm like, dude, they know. If they're running cameras, they already know.
Yeah.
Like you're sharing the same deer. So, just bridge that gap in communication. Start talking to your neighbors, sharing pictures, sharing information. And I think that when they see that, hey, this guy's he's not quite as bad as what I've heard. You can kind of start to build that relationship. Then it's a whole lot easier once you have that relationship to approach them and say, hey, hey, we're trying to grow 4 or 5 year old deer. And here's some that we've killed over the last few years. Y'all interested in doing that with us?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably what the question was alluding to more, is like, I know there's a conversation that needs to be had, but specifically, what do I say? Like,
right.
If I go to my neighbor and go, hey, buddy, would appreciate it if you don't shoot everything that walks.
That's just find not some common ground.
Yeah, you've got to find common ground.
And that is much easier landowner to landowner than it is landowner to a club.
Absolutely.
Or club to club. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it is very tough to deal with landowner to club or club to club, because there's so many different people involved.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yep.
And we've talked time and time again about clubs. If it's a club with a board, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get them on the same page.
No.
It's got to be one that's run with a single individual that runs it as a dictatorship.
Yeah.
That's the only way it works.
Yep. Here's the way we're going to hunt. If you feel like this is something you can do, come join us. If not, don't worry about it.
And what we've seen is too many people, you've got a lot of people pooling money toward a common goal. And a lot of times there's only a couple that really don't want to follow that, a lot of times. And then you've got a president or a board that don't want to make somebody mad. And then they just let those 2 or 3 do what they want to do, and that's where things go downhill.
And what I've seen often as well is everybody's got this mentality, well, I've got a decent deer on camera. And here's the thing, everybody truly inside wants to let it walk.
Yep.
But they don't communicate. So they're like, well, it's a nice deer. I know so-and-so is going to kill it, so I've got to kill it first. And, like the communication issue, you've got to bridge that gap. You've got to talk, because deep down, everybody may want to let that deer walk, but everybody also is going to shoot it. Whoever sees it first.
Going to kill it.
Going to kill it because they think that you will too.
I've got to get mine.
Yep, I'm going to get mine. Got to get mine.
Well, I think the assumptions are dangerous too.
They are.
Oh, absolutely.
If you assume that somebody's going to kill it, well, they might not if you talked. You know what I mean? I could be wrong. You know what I mean? But if you automatically assume that somebody's going to shoot it, well, then it's like, well, all that's out the window. I need to shoot it before it gets to him, whatever. So,
well, everybody's gotten so, now in the times we live in with these things right here and whatever, the immediate satisfaction is what folks are after.
yeah, no doubt.
If they can make themselves happy right now, pee on everybody else.
Yep.
That's right. PP. Bray, anything to add?
No, I mean, I think it all goes back to how you approach that conversation and just talking to them. I mean, it's already been said, but there's a lot of people that have no idea who their neighbors are or what they're doing. And you could get lucky and have somebody that has the same goals as you, and then you're controlling a big swath of land, which gives you that much more opportunity to let those deer reach their potential, help you meet your habitat goals. But you're never going to know if you're either on the defensive or refuse to have that conversation.
Right.
And rarely are my initial conversations with people, hey, what are y'all killing?
Right.
It's just like, hey, man, how's y'all season been going? Talk about baseball, talk about something else. See them on the side of the road or driving out of their property, stop them in the road, just have a conversation, a friendly conversation. And, I guess most of the time when I'm managing properties, I'm in it for the long game, and I'm not expecting immediate results.
Right.
So building that relationship with the individual is more important than me getting a deer to 5 years of age.
Yeah.
Initially.
For sure.
And a great way, to do that is, man, if you're trying to do something in cooperative and you meet these folks, invite them out to your camp, have a meal, have lemonade, have beer, whatever you choose to do. But try to build some camaraderie there before you start jumping into these hard subjects. It's going to, inevitably, you're going to hurt somebody's feelings.
Right.
But if you've got some type of relationship beforehand, like Matt was talking about, then that generally makes that a little easier.
Yep, because if you start a tit for tat relationship with somebody, you will never repair it.
Yeah.
If that's their initial, if that's the interaction that they initially have, you're done. They've built their opinion of you and you of them, and it's over. So.
I mean, even with me and Matt and the folks we hunt with, we don't all agree 100%, and we have arguments and we get pissed off. But we have a relationship in the background, and we're still all friends and family. We're not going to let a deer ruin that.
No.
Right.
Some people will, but
at the end of the day, it is a deer.
Yeah, that's right.
No doubt.
On the list of priorities, it's pretty low.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In the grand scheme.
Yep.
All right. Here's a good one, y'all. You can probably spend some time talking about this one really as much as you want to. But very short, sweet. Is CWD real?
Oh.
I mean, I kind of understand the question there because it seems like it gets a whole lot of press time and a whole lot of clout for a very, very low percentage of deer that actually test positive for it. So I can understand why people are at least concerned about, like, hey, man, it seems like our state agencies are making a really, really, really big deal about almost nothing.
Well, I look at it almost, and I don't even think Bray was alive for this. We were young. When the AIDS epidemic kind of really got blowing
You were
up.
not alive.
No, that was the 80s.
That was the 80s.
Yeah, late 80s, yeah. So all that, I kind of view it the same. And look at how much money the U.S. government threw at trying to stop AIDS. You're not going to stop it. We're not going to stop CWD.
We missed the boat on that.
Yeah, the only thing we can hope to do is better understand it and try to keep it, if it's possible, which I think there's more coming out, now. We've got to make sure that it's not going to cross the species barrier to humans. That's obviously the biggest concern.
Yep.
CWD is 100% real. Is it something that is going to tank all populations and ruin hunting? No. Is it something that we need to continue to monitor? 100%. Most people get up in arms with CWD is the amount of funding that state agencies get, once there's a positive found. And I even saw some guy, he made a post that was definitive. Every CWD case that pops up, the state gets more money. It's not accurate. There's pools of money for this, and yes, if you got it, then you're probably getting more than other states. But I think we've done a pretty fair job of learning from other states and other regions of the country. Are we making some of the same mistakes? Yeah, I think so. But there's only a handful of ways we can actually handle these things and look at them, and it requires dead deer.
Well, and I think that would be, the average outdoorsman, the average hunter, I think that's more the concern. Is not necessarily where money's going, which is important. But I think people go, okay, if I'm a deer breeder and we get a positive within, a mile of where my enclosure is, now you're going to come and wipe out my high fence? Like, hold up for a minute. And that's what people are scared of.
But that's not accurate either.
Right.
If
there's a lot of misinformation.
There's a lot, and a lot of it stems from, okay, if I let them test my deer and they find it positive, the state, and I have seen it more than once, the state is going to send in snipers to take out all the deer. And that is not true. You have to get a prevalence rate to understand where you stand. And the state's CWD response plan is on the state's website.
Anybody can read it.
It is open for the public to read. We have all seen it. We have all reviewed it.
Yes, and even though it's there, people still will read it and walk away with a completely different message than what it actually contains.
Yeah.
I had, when I was in North Alabama, I had a CWD freezer wiped out of the heads because there was freezers placed around the state for you to drop your deer heads off to be tested for CWD. I had a freezer that somebody came and took all the heads because they were like, if they find a positive sample, they're going to come and wipe out every deer. And it's not true at all.
Yeah.
And look,
I'm not trying to hurt people's feelings. That's willful ignorance.
It is.
Is what that is.
Yep.
They want there to be somebody at fault when there's not. It's here. We can't do anything about it.
And it doesn't help that you've got local media outlets, zombie deer disease detected in Alabama. That's not true. There's a lot of fear mongering going on. There's a lot of misinformation going on. There's a lot of influential people in our world that say that it's a complete hoax. You shouldn't trust the state agencies. Okay, but it is real.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a very, if I said his name on here, everybody would know who he is.
Just say it.
No,
I will.
I'm not going there.
100%.
But there's a guy in the hunting community, celebrity. He goes on like about a 10-minute rant.
That's where I was
driving
going.
down the road, and the dude's like, if you ask a state biologist, if you ask any of these state agencies, how, tell me the reasoning for your response to this disease. Tell me why we're doing X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, whatever. They can't tell you.
So
there's a reason for that.
Look,
go ahead.
They missed the boat entirely on stopping the disease. When it was first detected, deer transport should have been shut down for every state immediately, period. Okay? It don't pop up in new areas unless you bring it there.
Yeah. Yep.
Because its outward expansion is only going to go as far as deer can naturally disperse.
Yep.
Which isn't, in the grand scheme of things, is not very
Right,
fast.
it wouldn't be that far.
Right.
So when you have a case pop up in Florida or South Georgia or Louisiana, it didn't get there naturally. It got there because somebody either transported a deer or transported deer parts that were infected. So they should have shut down all deer transport. But since they did not, the cat's out of the bag now.
Yeah.
And really, states are just in recovery mode. Like, what are we going to do about it since we do have it? Because I guarantee you, most of the states that don't have it detected, they have it.
Yeah.
Just because deer parts and deer have been transported all over the place.
there are cases of it spontaneous. I mean,
there is a spontaneous
yes, and
chronic wasting
it's
disease.
To my understanding, the last I read, that is a very small percentage of them.
Yep.
But you can determine it by using the Western blot test, which I would have to ask our state agency. We were not using it when we were there. I don't know if we've started. I doubt it, because we pretty well know where ours came from.
And here's my concerns with CWD. One, mad cow disease also didn't have a known transmission to humans until it did.
Right.
They told everybody that, it was safe for human consumption. False.
Yep.
They're telling everybody that deer infected with CWD are safe for human consumption.
I'm not risking it.
I'm not risking it.
Me either.
Okay.
No way.
There has been cases of similar type diseases in rodents passed to people, squirrels, and in particular. So I'm not going to risk it with my family now. For years, in a lot of the areas that had CWD, they were historically places that had lower deer populations than what most of the Southeast has, except for parts of Wisconsin. They've got some really high deer densities up there. So we haven't seen how southern deer herds are going to respond to this disease yet. Now, what we have seen, and I think William McKinley with the MDWFP pointed this out at the CWD meeting, some areas are seeing a decrease in the amount of deer that can reach maturity.
Right.
Is it going to wipe out a deer herd? No. Is it going to affect people's ability to reach maturity in the buck age structure and the doe age structure? It doesn't matter. I mean, it's all deer.
It's a management implication.
It's a management. Yes, it's going to have management consequences. And, that could affect people's ability to manage for older age class deer, which in turn will also impact habitat management, because people are typically not going to sink a bunch of time, resources, and money into a property if they know that very few deer are going to get out of the 3-year-old age class.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, what's the I can't remember if it's Georgia or maybe South Carolina, but there were 2 hunters that have tested positive for the
Crutchfield
So
job.
Yes.
they didn't release the state that they were from. It was presented last April at a meeting, and it was 2 hunters that were members of the same hunting lodge in a high prevalence area for CWD that both passed away from Creutzfeldt-Jakob's disease, or however you choose to say it. It's the prion disease.
Yeah.
I tried to do as much research as I could on it, just to, that's a big deal.
Oh,
if
that's
that is true,
that's
is
terrifying.
a big deal. Something that, I've kind of been racking my brain on and stuff was, are they in an area that CWD's been prevalent for 3 decades, and they've been what is the prion load?
Yep.
And that's an exact conversation I had, and unfortunately I do not remember her name. She was a researcher from, if I remember correctly, it was Spain, and she presented in Texas at the CWD meeting that they had. I mean, this has been years ago because I was still with the department. But she was talking about mad cow and the prion loading, and her comment was, "I'm not scared to eat it at this point, but I had much rather eat one that just blows up with the test just glowing red than eat, a low
portion
over a long period of time." She said, "We have found that it's time. The more that you allow it to build up with time, the worse off this can be. If you eat it once or twice in a deer that's just raging with CWD, likely not a huge problem."
Well, and that's, I believe from what I read, the 2 hunters were like 78 and 80 years old. So that's why my mind went to, are they in an area, because it was found in Colorado in 1967. If they're in an area that has been around for 30, 40 years now, and they're consistently eating deer every single year, not getting their deer tested, yeah, I mean, you're playing your odds no matter what on something like that. But when you continue to play your odds on it, that's going to build up over time. And I'm not willing to take that chance. And we might be safe with our age, but I'm not going to give it to my toddler.
No, I mean, if that's ever proven, I mean, the implications and like
It
what
would be
that would,
huge.
I mean, not just,
it would be monster.
I mean, I'll never
Yeah.
eat another bite. You know what I mean? As much as,
Yeah.
you know, as
And
much
a lot
as
of people feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, that's
that-
terrifying. Then you have processors that, I mean, what happens to them?
Oh, it's
They go out of business.
You know
it's
what I
got
mean?
tremendous business implications
Yes.
and you know, sustaining, you know, your food at home. A lot of people, that's what they eat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we
You know,
don't
keep
we
it a
don't-
full freezer.
We don't buy beef and haven't in years unless Jeremy gives me some. I mean, that's just is what it is. We've had some great steaks that we bought when we go out to eat, but as far as what we eat, red meat in the house, it is venison that we have killed right there.
For sure. Organic before it was cool.
That's it. Farm to fork, baby.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to add to that or that.
I think you have to be careful with the information that you take in on it, because there's some people that are diehard, like, oh my God, once it's found in my state, our deer herd is gone. That's not happening in Alabama. I don't see that happening in Alabama, not with the population that we've got here. And it has, what was it? Was it Arkansas that when they tested positive, it was a
Just
huge
everywhere.
number of positive deer.
Yeah.
When Alabama first found it in 2022, it was one, I think maybe 2 pop positive that entire season. And we got, I say lucky, we got lucky in how it happened. It happened during hunting season.
Right.
And then so the state snipers didn't come out and take all the deer. They were able to rely on hunter harvested
Well, that's
samples.
what I was going to say.
That's what they want to do.
That's
Yeah.
what they'd rather
It's
do.
manpower.
Yes,
It's manpower
yes.
and money.
Well,
It's
they
a
don't
whole
want to
lot
spend
easier
that.
for them to get people to voluntarily bring samples in than to get people to go out and shoot deer.
Well, I mean, and again, not for every hunter, but if you tell hunters now, hey, your daily bag limits don't apply anymore because you're inside this zone, go have fun. Like, that's not going to hurt most people's feelings.
Right.
You know what I mean? Especially, you know, some of these people that you said, hey, we stock our freezers and that's all we eat. Now you can shoot, you know, 2 or 3 does a day instead of a buck and a doe or whatever. So
I think the biggest thing is to keep an open mind. You mentioned the famous fella, and Dr. Kroll talks a lot about it too. And a lot of people give him a lot of flack, but he is presenting pretty good evidence for some of the things he says and argues about. But I sat through one of his talks with the Alabama Deer Breeders Association years ago, and it was a good talk. He provided a lot of information that those deer breeders were not going to get from the state, primarily because the state's not going to say it a whole lot, or the employees aren't.
Right.
You know, the field staff is not going to get into talking about it. If they wanted to have a conversation like that, they would have to talk to somebody in Montgomery. But just consume information from knowledgeable people, not necessarily, you know, folks that are famous for other reasons.
Facebook.
And any sensational headline that has to do with it, whether it goes one way or the other, whether it's the zombie deer taking over Alabama,
There's a purpose.
or whether it's CWD is fake and the states are just using it to get money. Both of those are untrue.
Yeah.
Nobody wants CWD.
Journalists are just wanting to get people to click.
Yes, clicks.
Just clicks.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, that's all it is. And then you click on it and it's, hey, there's a disease that you might see in a deer, and
Right.
he might act a little funny.
Right.
But
And-
it's not zombie deer taking over.
Y'all, and you'll fill me in because y'all sent it to me because I wasn't aware of it. I've kind of been in my own bubble for about 3 weeks. But
That's not just 3 weeks worth.
Nah, it's probably 2 months. But anyway, but what are the shrews carrying?
Oh, that shrew disease found around Camp Hill. Where was it?
Camp Hill.
Camp Hill, Alabama.
Yeah,
Let me find it.
But-
It's a deadly virus.
It
Very
is.
deadly virus.
But-
the
But
odds
it's
of you-
another zoonotic
Yeah, another-
that crossed
right.
the species barrier.
But how many people are running around catching shrews and having close contact with them?
well, right, but
I mean, I did when I was a kid, but I was real weird. I mean, most people don't do
still
that.
weird.
Makes
but,
so much sense now.
But
Yeah.
but still, the fact, you know, it's a deadly virus that nobody's talking about.
yeah.
Nobody.
And it is a real threat to human beings.
Absolutely.
And it made one little headline
And nobody talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not blowing up on Facebook.
Yep. And it's got I think a 70% mortality rate in humans.
It was high.
Jeez, that's terrifying.
Yeah, the
No
Camp
thanks.
Hill virus spread from animals to humans. Serious disease and death in people and animals in other regions. The closest is the Langia virus, which crossed from shrews to humans in China. There's a lot of
Thanks, China.
shrew to
Imagine
human issues
Yeah, but
across the world.
And I brought that up to say, where's the the blowing up on social media about something that's actually killing people.
Shrews aren't $1 billion business in Alabama.
That's it.
There you go.
And it all comes back.
Everybody shut up real quick before we don't.
It's money.
I know.
It's the driving force behind most of it.
Yep. But yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, last one here, if y'all are ready for, I guess, yeah, we're at 55 minutes. This needs to be the last one, probably.
It's dang near lunchtime too.
Yeah.
We have talked about this extensively on
Have
the
we now?
podcast. But so, I mean, it could be a new listener, and if it's you, then we're glad you're here. Are cull/management bucks proven to improve deer herd genetics?
No.
Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, just stop.
Just
it.
no.
Just no.
In the show.
Don't worry about it.
Cut.
I'll see y'all later.
Yep. Don't worry about it.
Just shoot it and be happy with it, man.
Yep.
Yep. Oh man, a cull is an excuse most of the time.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
that's been proven.
I mean, I think that I've even got a little bit different perspective on that just from our trip to South Texas.
Yeah.
Because in a extremely controlled environment like that, where I mean, when I say extremely controlled, you're controlling what they eat. You know, you're controlling, like, of course, now they weren't that's not a breeding facility necessarily.
Right.
It's just parts of their range.
Very
were
well
enclosed.
taken care of
Yes,
deer.
yes. Even there, there's no like guarantees
Right.
for anything like that. But now, if you're a breeder, like you guys have talked before, like that's a little different where you've got pedigree, like lineage and stuff. That's
Yeah,
different.
but even like on Comanche, they did how long was their culling study? Several years.
I know that they'll. May be a different study, but I think there was one that was like 15 years
Yeah,
long
but
or something like
they
that.
didn't find any, statistically relevant information from the control group and the culling group. I mean, it was, basically the same thing.
And I think folks are wanting to use culling for many different facets of management. You've got some folks that just want to kill deer that spike on one side. That's what's really popular around here.
And that's injury related.
Right. Got nothing to do with genetics.
Nope.
Some of the others that are actually a little more educated about what they're talking about are it's more so resource oriented. I've got this 3-year-old here standing with another 3-year-old. This one scores 105. This one's 122. We've got limited resources. We need to kill some deer. Well, let's don't kill this 122. Let's kill this 105.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it from a resource point of view, then that's
Right.
it's okay. But don't think you're changing genetics.
Right.
Well,
You're just changing the amount of resources that
Right.
just better deer is having
Yes,
access to.
You're manipulating your standing crop of individual
That's
deer
it. That's
in
all
each
you're
age
doing.
class. Now,
Yeah.
if that is your objective,
Fine.
then yes. But if you think that I'm going to shoot every deer that I see that's got fewer than 7 points at maturity, you're not. You can go all the way down the ladder to shooting spikes with 1.5-inch antlers that barely break the hairline. You are not going to remove those inferior genetic traits from the herd. Period.
Right. Yeah, I mean, basically, like you said, it's resource management as
Right.
opposed to improving genetics.
Right.
Yes.
And another thing, and this is what some people don't understand. I hear it all the time. People say, "Well, yeah, I shot a deer yesterday, and it was the grandson of the one I killed 3 years ago." You
No
have
way,
no
no.
idea.
You don't know that.
You have no idea because look, deer are dispersed at such a rate. The odds of that deer's offspring actually being raised and staying on your property are slim to none.
None.
Yeah, I mean
Likely.
slim to none.
Especially if you're talking about bucks.
Right,
Like,
and the inherited
know that.
the traits that are passed down from one buck to the next generation. There's no way to predict if a long-tined deer is going to produce offspring with long tines, or it's the same type spread, or like his genetic traits that he is visibly expressing. None of his offspring may ever show those traits.
Yeah, it's very, very low. And was it State that did that study?
There's been several,
but the most recent one, I think.
Yes,
and it was a really good one. It talked about beam length, time length, everything, number of points.
Yes.
The whole nine. And most of those percentages, as far as heritability, were around 10 or less. Wasn't it?
I think the most maybe was 24. I think they range from 10 or 9 to 24% predictability in
inheritability.
That word. So, you've got at best a 1 in 10 to 1 in 8 chance that a deer is going to, or an offspring is going to express the same characteristics as the father.
Well, and that's what we did at the Auburn Deer Lab too. When I was in school, blood was drawn. We darted those deer. Every deer had its blood drawn. Every deer had a marking on it. Sheds were collected and pieced together. And, every year you'd see, just because this buck has 14 points and is scoring incredibly, he might have a 6-point
offspring.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
It all has to go back to, when are these bucks being born? What are they being born into? And what is the habitat providing in those crucial years? Because a lot of people don't realize these buck fawns, when they're born and what they're born into, the amount of rain you got that year, everything like that.
So people don't realize that.
No, they don't. And look, the deeper I get into this and the longer I do this, I realize, y'all, the habitat in this state sucks.
Yeah.
And you know how I came to that conclusion? When I started actively managing properties and I started seeing how each age class of deer and the antler development gains that they made over traditional land management, which is basically planting food plots. When you actively start managing understories, and it takes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years to start seeing the results of that, and you go, this is like hunting a different world.
It is.
It really is.
Well, because they're not meeting their antler potential,
They're
eating
not.
privet.
Right. That's exactly right. And people are like, well, these woods will support a lot of deer. They will support a lot of deer in poor health.
A lot of unhealthy deer.
And this is what people don't understand. Just because a deer has fat on its hips does not make it healthy.
No.
It does not make it healthy.
Not because that's an annual fluctuation. If you're going to do fat, kidney fat is much better, but that's still an annual fluctuation. That's why we tell people to take them at the same time every year. But Bray, hit the nail on the head. What they're born into, when, and that whole nine sets up more of it than anything else. And that has so much to do with a doe.
It does. A doe's health matters. Doe's lives matter.
Yep. And where they live, doe groups that don't demand the best habitat, are going to start out. They may be bred at the same time. They may be, fairly healthy. The doe may be, but she, may be rearing her fawn in an area that doesn't have as good a habitat. That's going to set that buck back.
Yep.
For his whole life.
And because of dispersal, you can do everything on your property. And if your bucks are dispersing from 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 miles away, and those does are not as healthy, fawns are not going to start off life as healthy. If you've got bucks being born on your property that are 7 to 10 days, ahead of everybody else because of rut time, and y'all look, the presence of mature deer in your population can initiate
so many things.
Like people are like, well, you're just a trophy hunt. No, I'm looking out for the herd health.
Yep. Yeah.
And as long as all you know is status quo, you don't know how good your deer can be.
Yep.
And it's not about producing trophies. It's about having healthier deer herds.
Yeah.
And
the healthier and the getting them to full maturity, regardless what's on their head, it should be everybody's goal.
Yeah.
And as Matt has talked, and we've talked many times about Matt and Matt Moore, they mentioned epigenetics. It takes a long time to open that up.
It is not a magic switch.
It takes generations, and you'll get a lot of people that start working on this are like, man, we're just not seeing those gains. you got to wait.
You got to wait.
It takes time.
Yeah.
You have to have deer born into that. You know, the better habitat, the better food, all the resources, and then they're young. It's where you're going to start unlocking the potential.
Right.
Yeah, you've got to have those generational cycles come full circle before you can see the big difference. And while we're on the topic of cull bucks, I think something we also see is this age of social media. People are shooting deer, and if you're proud of it, shoot it. Not my property. But don't get on there and make excuses in these deer hunter Facebook groups and these posts, because there are people that are going to be very ugly to you. But I see a lot of people that, you know, okay, this is the first buck on the property that you just bought.
Absolutely.
Be proud of it. Don't get on there and be like, well, it's not the biggest, but
Yeah, don't start out that way.
They deserve more respect than that.
Yep.
And if you're not proud of it, don't shoot it.
Yep.
And certainly don't post it on social media.
Yeah.
And not everything has to be posted.
That's exactly right. It's like, I'm not against somebody putting a 1 or 2 year old buck on social media, but don't go on there and say, well, it's not the buck I was after.
Yeah, I shot this because.
Right.
End of the season, I haven't killed anything yet. Might as well shoot it.
If you want to shoot a spike, shoot it.
Well,
be dang proud of it and put it up there and say, hey, I got a deer today.
And get some summer sausage and be happy.
That's
Don't-
right.
I saw a guy post the other day, and I don't know his name, so I wouldn't say it if I did. And I know he was hunting Jackson County, but I don't know if he was on private land or public land. And that makes a difference. Not necessarily because, you know, you just don't care, but they have guidelines and they have dates that you can only kill certain sex during those dates. So I can't fault him for that. But he shot a 2-year-old, like 6 or 8, you know, pretty little deer. And he posted it, and well, I had to have a deer for the freezer. And, you know, I'd only killed one this year. This was the only buck I saw, but I had, you know, right before this guy came through, there was like 8 or 9 does. And I'm like, what?
Shoot the doe,
Shoot
brother.
the doe. You saw 8 or 9 does. You saw this one 2-year-old buck, and that's what you shot.
Yeah.
Now, if he was legally bound for that,
Yeah, because I know
that's
a lot of the
matter.
management areas, when I was in North Alabama, I don't think we had an either sex gun hunt after like December, beginning of December. But there's you can archery hunt either sex as long as it's not on a gun hunt weekend.
That's right.
But just quit making excuses for them.
that's
If
all
you're
I'm
going to
asking.
shoot it, be proud of it. Because if you're taking the time to go out there and, you know, manage your equipment, manage your habitat, go to the processor, do whatever, be proud of it.
Sorry. We've all talked about us falling apart at our age, and my Apple News spotlight is 4 ways to start aging healthier this week.
There you go.
That's going to be our next podcast.
For real, like geriatric care.
I'm sorry, that was totally off topic, but that was fun.
I want to ask kind of in that same spirit here, because it's something I've always just been curious about, but I feel like there's not really anything I can do to change it. But I've got this, you know, you've heard me talk about this really small micro property that I get to hunt here in Marshall County. I think, if I remember right, I think that we've had that place for either 9 or 10 years now. I've harvested 1 buck off of it. I would say total of everybody that's ever hunted it since we've owned it, there's been 3 maybe. But even deer that bucks that we get on camera that are old, that are mature, they all seem to have similar, not the exact same, but similar antler characteristics. And it's the weirdest thing. They'll have these like relatively heavy main beams, sweep around, and then these just little, you know, like 8 or 10. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's.
It's high grading, plain and simple. The reason you have piss poor mature deer is because that's the only thing that is allowed to live to be old enough.
Wait.
I don't feel like people can hear me.
No, they can hear you
They
just
can
fine.
hear
I don't hear myself.
High grading probably is not a problem for him because there's not enough deer to grade.
No.
That's just what they've got. They're not. It's their epigenetics. That's what
they could be expressing what they have the potential to do, given the environmental conditions that they're under. But I still
no food.
Right.
And that's what my thing is over there is like. There's a 40 by 40 perfect square block of pine trees that border us. And
40 by 40, like you mean acres?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 40 by I was like, no.
So a quarter by quarter.
No.
So 40
It's 40
Yes.
pine trees.
Yeah, but I mean, but like if you look at it
Got
on
3
a map,
trees over there.
if you look at it on a map, it's a perfect square, a
Okay,
40 acre
yeah,
block.
right.
And that's what borders it. And the rest is just kind of typical, looks like Jackson County, kind of bouldery, steep terrain.
Hardwood.
Rocky
hardwood.
privet.
Yes. That type of
Rocky
stuff
privet,
around
yeah.
there. So, my stepdad's just like, oh, that's just them genetics over there. It's just, and I'm like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what
They're expressing the potential that they have based off of the resources they have available. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, I don't know exactly where that is, but very, very familiar story for here.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you'll have one that goes,
Yeah.
It's just, y'all
That's
saw
why I say it's high grading.
there's not enough deer to high grade.
But
It's just killing.
The very few that could go woof are getting shot when they're woof.
Yeah. Which is possible. I mean,
It's possible. There's just so few deer in that part of the world. It's kind of like me. I got turd deer on my place. I finally got a buck.
Now, you did get a nice little deer.
Yeah, but I mean, he's 3 and he scores 100.
That's average for a 3-year-old in most of Alabama.
Yeah, but then you saw the picture Kyle sent.
Oh, no, those are 5-6-year-old deer.
They are.
Those
But
are nice.
but when they around here if they can get to 6, 7, 8, and they live somewhere that's actually got some agriculture here, yes.
Oh, I know.
If they do not live in the very small spots of agriculture, they all look like what he's talking about and what I've got on my farm. There's just no food.
Yeah,
It's closed canopy, hardwood forest.
Well, because remember, they have to meet that baseline before they can add on
that's the
to
thing
their
is
antlers.
I don't think most of our deer here ever meet
the baseline.
or even meet the baseline. That's just where they live.
Well, because if you break it down, antler growth comes from their testosterone, their calcium levels. They're pulling from stores in their skeletal system.
Yeah. Yep.
If they are just barely meeting enough to grow their bones, they can't put extra into growing their antlers. No. If they don't have all the extra nutrients and minerals that they need, they're not going to have extra antlers. They're going to have.
That is why I get so frustrated with people who say, "Oh, we're just in Alabama with Alabama genetics." No, you're in Alabama with Alabama habitat.
Yeah. The habitat that you were talking about sucks.
It sucks.
It just all sucks.
I mean, if you just drive this state and you look around, what we always thought, well, these are decent deer woods. They're not.
They're pretty woods to look at.
Yeah, you've got to maximize herbaceous growth on every acre that you have, and that is not the way timber is managed in this state.
No,
it is just simply not.
Or pasture land, or your yards, or anything else. The only places that are seeing these deer just is where there's some farmer that's got agriculture, generally around a subdivision or something, or homes that's not getting hunted. I'm talking about specifically here.
To here, yeah.
Yeah, that's not getting hunted. Those deer have resources, and they can get old. Other parts of the state, it's just, you don't manage pine plantations. We're getting better. We have companies that are doing things more on a more open spacing, and they're changing their herbicide prescriptions so that you've got more herbaceous growth during the establishment of those trees. But, once they get canopy closure, man, they's nothing. Deer walk through pine plantations and canopy closure and eat a bramble here and there and mushrooms.
Yeah,
because that's what's there.
The two places that we have in Fett and Lamar County, vastly different.
Night and day.
And they're within walking distance of each other.
Yeah.
Vastly different.
Our mature bucks, we had an outlier kill this year that was a 200-pound deer, but mostly we're 150, 160.
Every deer over there looks like that. Sorry.
Yep, 150, 160 pounds. And over
so
there,
got mass
where we're
at,
it's like
the 210, 220.
Oh, yeah.
So it's...
Yep. Yeah, I was
That's
running
how
numbers.
they all look like that.
I was
Hey,
running,
y'all hush. We're having a podcast
We're actually
over
having
here.
a podcast over here. Let me see
We're
it.
talking about deer over here.
Oh, yeah, that's junk here.
Let's
It is junk.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine what that deer could have
I
been
know.
if he'd have been, on a good,
Somewhere else.
a good site. Yeah. Yeah. But no, I was crunching numbers a couple of days ago on the deer that we killed pre-rut. And our average body weight was well in excess of 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And that is unheard of in Alabama.
Yeah, that-
for
that-
an
that-
average. And that was with like 7
Yeah, that
or 8
don't
bucks
happen
killed.
much.
Right. But it's habitat. And like you said, 4 miles down the road, mature buck pre-rut weights 155 to 160, I would say would be strong.
Yeah. And it's all about habitat.
That's it.
I mean, one place was pine plantation that was clear cut. A lot of it was clear cut relatively recently. And y'all seen us post pictures and videos there where it's been burned and it's just unbelievable habitat versus the other site that is 22-year-old pines that's never been thinned. There's just nothing for
And
them.
there's no market. So, I mean, the likelihood of it getting thinned and the landowner actually coming out ahead are very slim and none. So,
and that's another thing that people don't really understand about deer management here when it comes to somebody trying to manage pines, especially an industrial pine forest. It's market driven.
yep.
Your deer management, unfortunately, is going to be timber market driven.
Yep.
That's true. Yeah, if you get in the way of somebody making money, it won't work.
Nope.
That's it.
All right, time to eat.
Yep, I reckon so. Matt's getting that ornery over here. He's
Good. I ate half of his gravy biscuit earlier
With a pocket knife.
with a pocket knife.
That's how
With a blade that's about that long. I don't know what he's doing.
I try it. Well, guys, yeah, that'll wrap up the part 2 of the Ask a Biologist biscuit knife episode.
That's right.
But we got some more in this series coming. We're also going to maybe take a break, not take a break from it, but we may do some standalone stuff. But we're going to come back to this series because you guys have asked some really good questions, and there's plenty of them left. So as long as you guys are asking questions, we want to try to answer them for you.
Yep. We have to work out schedules with many other people to have other guests on. So it's not like every episode is going to be Ask a Biologist. We have to have time to get folks.
That's right.
Get folks here. Sorry.
That's right. So if you haven't already done so, we ask that you please like, share, subscribe on all the things, all the platforms. It really helps us out. And for real, if we get to 10,000 followers on Instagram, we're going to have a legend shirt.
Yep.
And nothing Matt can do about it because he agreed to it.
Yep, he agreed. And something else, you're asking these questions. We're in the early stages of planning some seminar series. Would love to have some input from you guys on what you would like to have in those series. And would you prefer 1 day, day and a half, 2 full days, all classroom activities, or 1 day classroom, 1 day outside?
Yeah.
We would love to get your input because we have ideas and we feel like we know what would drive a good seminar and what people would come to. But
we've got to know what people
yes.
really want to do, because if we're going to put the money and effort and all behind it and take time to do it, we need people to show up.
That's right. So send us your suggestions, and you feel free to DM or email us either way. And that being said, we'll see you guys on the next one.
peace out.
Out.
Yeah.